It is Face It Friday here on Talk to Me, and we're talking about unstoppable growth. Today's show is sponsored by the Solutionist Portal Group Coaching, where you'll close the gap between your desire and your reality. All you have to do is scan the code to get more information. I am your host, Brenda Warren, the Soulutionist, and today I'm excited to be joined by my pal, my buddy, my friend, my confidant, my mentor. You get the idea, blah, 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 blah. Lisa DeShawn, the executive results coach. How did I get intro, Lisa?
Yay! Congratulations! I loved it.
Lisa, this week I've been talking about don't count yourself out. Uh, Chasing failure, looking ahead, and the attitude of gratitude. And I was thinking, what do all of those things have in common? And what they all have in common is the desire to have unstoppable growth. And so I thought we'd have that conversation today. And as you can see by the little flower, you and I had some serious unstoppable growth over this past few years. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, when they are starting out on their journey, they forget that they get to determine if their growth stops or starts. What say you, Lisa?
It really is true. And sometimes when businesses get into this growth mode, they go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really important. And as I'm thinking about the growth and the path and the ways that people do different things, it's really interesting that even though there's always a path to go forward,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't.
And the reality is, Lisa, people forget that growth doesn't happen overnight, which is why I wanted to talk about unleashing the entrepreneur spirit, growing strong like bamboo. Lisa, I've been fascinated this week about two stories. We're going to start with the first one that just blew me away. And that was the story about the businessman who was discouraged and came across a gardener. And the gardener was working on a fern and a bamboo. And the gardener looked up and noticed this man, and he asked him what was wrong, and he told him how he was working on his business and he'd been doing it for years, and he was discouraged, and he was just kicking the rocks in the garden. He was just so upset. And the gardener asked him to sit down and begin to tell him the story of the fern and the bamboo. He said, look at this. He said, you see these? He said, see that little fern there? Now, it was looking pretty good right then. He said, I planted both of these at the same time. The bamboo was really, really tall, and the fern was really little and kind of shriveled up. He said, but here's the thing. The fern popped right up. And although I was watering and fertilizing every day, it never really got much bigger than it is right now. It's just kind of there. However, the bamboo, it didn't even show up the first year. It didn't show up the second year. I still was watering fern. I was just, nothing was happening, it appeared. That went on for 5 years straight, Lisa, where he watered and fertilized that bamboo, and nothing was coming up. But then in the fifth year, it started to sprout. And he got excited. So he was watering and fertilizing. And then all of a sudden, in about 6 weeks, it shot up to over 90 feet. So he asked the young man, how long did it take to grow that bamboo? He said 6 weeks. He said, no, 5 years, 6 weeks. Why? Because during the time I saw nothing happening, although I was watering it and fertilizing it, it was growing roots all throughout, a root strong enough to support the weight of that 90-foot tall bamboo tree. And here's an interesting fact. Bamboo trees aren't trees, they're grass. And so as I was researching this, I thought about what does that really mean? So I wanted to talk about that because, you know, as an entrepreneur, we have to think about this particular journey as if we are a bamboo tree, because you're going to do a lot of stuff, groundwork and foundational work, before you ever see the results of your business. And I wanted you to speak on that.
It's true because we always say the foundation is everything, right? We also always say that the foundational stuff is probably the most boring stuff you are going to do in your business. And if we understand, like the bamboo tree, that that the time that it takes to get results is valuable, then that's what we need to remember. If you invest in your business's foundation, whether it's through skill development, network building, market research, etc., that is really going to put you above everything else. And when it starts to grow and your business starts to get there, it's just going to skyrocket. So that foundational piece, even though you can't see the bamboo, and it's sitting there and it's underground, knowing something may or may not come up, you're going to go with it's going to come up, is really a true testament to patience and
and
foundation building.
the foundation building is the part where it's about the business of doing business, Lisa. And I think that's why it's important as people are doing this for us to talk about embracing the growth process. It's like, let's go. It's an adventure, but you got to get on that road to success to even be able to embrace the growth process. And bamboos, trees, it takes a while for them to grow. And then there's all these different species. Some of them will take 5 years, 6 weeks. Some will take 5 years, 6 months. There is no one way for these things to grow. I did not realize there were so many species. So depending on, and that to me was similar to businesses. There's so many different niches and different businesses. There's different people, different thoughts, different mindsets, and depending on what an entrepreneur decides to embrace, their process could be longer or shorter. Think about this, Lisa. For you and I, we've done most of our stuff online. Starting an online business doesn't often take a lot of investment in the beginning because most people have, I call it the business in your hand, a cell phone. There have been people that have launched $1 million businesses with their iPhones. And I think that's amazing. Where on the other hand, if they're trying to do a brick and mortar business, now you're talking about finding locations, buildings, permits, etc., etc., etc. So your process can be a lot longer.
And actually, both processes can be a lot longer because depending on how you have your business, because people who have online businesses often think, like you said, I have my business in my hand with the phone. But it takes time to cultivate. It takes time to create the process and the progress, and create the courses or whatever it is that you need for your online business. And if you are selling items, then you have to go through the trouble of putting them up on the website and have them for sale. So there's a process. But if you keep pushing forward, even if the process seems slow, just like the bamboo tree, it's a slow process for growth, but it is a process and it is moving forward. So as long as you keep pushing forward, regardless of the type of business, it's going to be a win.
And in the process, too, Lisa, that's where people take the opportunity to develop their skills, develop their expertise, show their expertise. So, like you said, although having, I call it the business in my hand, you would still have to do your sales, your marketing, your accounting. There's still time required to do all of that. Sometimes I think people think, oh, I'm going to start a business, and they jump right in. And I always laugh when I see that, Lisa, because they haven't done any type of market research. They haven't done SWOT analysis or your favorite, the business model canvas. They have no business plan. And here's the worst part. Sometimes they don't even have a good business idea. And so the process of really figuring those things out before you even start. Now, we know there's been many a business that have jumped right in both feet and they've made a lot of money. But guess what? It has not been sustainable because they don't allow for the process and for them to put the things in place. There's nothing worse than seeing a business that starts out, does really, really well, and then they're shut down in 6 months to a year. We know most small businesses shut down within 5 years. And that can be avoided if people will set a solid foundation and be mindful that there is a process and there's a time requirement for whatever business, be it brick and mortar or online.
And I totally agree because the foundation is everything. And if you think about the bamboo tree, the roots that it's building so that it can grow tall and it can grow quickly once it gets the air and the sun, that makes a big difference.
It really does. And the other story that fascinated me this week was the one you shared with me called Chasing Failure. Now, because that's Mr. Leake's actual, what do you call it, his program, I chose to write Embrace the Chase, Ryan Leake's Failure Philosophy on my slide. Don't want to get any copyrights problems with that. But His video is called Chasing Failure. And if you have not seen Chasing Failure, just go out to YouTube, Google Chasing Failure. It's Ryan Leak. That is a video I'm going to start recommending everybody I talk to. If you're in earshot, you're going to hear about Chasing Failure till I take my last breath. That's how good I thought it was. And Lisa loved it so much, she created an article that you can go out on LinkedIn and see it. Lisa, tell us about Chasing Failure.
I thought it was fascinating because, we always talk about failure. We always talk about how you overcome. Well, Ryan actually says intentionally do something that you're going to fail at. So the MBA was the example for him. He was a college student, or when he was in college, he actually was a good basketball player, and he's now an entrepreneur. And he's sitting here thinking, you know, what was my dream? Where would I be today if I really lived into my dream? And he said I'd be an NBA player.
Mm-hmm.
So he reached out to the Phoenix Suns and said, "Hey, I want to be an NBA player. Can I come and do your tryouts?" It took him a couple of days to say yes, but he did get a chance. And he went and approached it on the basis, I know I'm going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So why not give me a chance? If
Mm-hmm.
you go in knowing you're going to fail, and traditionally I would have said before watching that, I would have said never go with a mindset of failure, because if your mindset is failure, you're going to fail. But
Mm-hmm.
in his particular case, and the way he broached it was, I'm going to fail, but I'm going to give it 100% just in case I don't fail.
Right.
So it was a unique aspect of way of thinking about it. And when you think about business and you think about, and by the way, he did not make it into the MBAs. He did get to do the tryouts. It's really great. Um, but if you think about what the bamboo tree teaches us when we're chasing failure, it's the unseen growth and strength that we often think it's failing. So if you planted a bamboo tree and after a year it still hadn't grown, you can't even see a sprout, you're wondering, did I fail?
Mm-hmm.
Then you do it the second year and the third year, even though you know that it's going to take 5 years. In the back of your mind, you're like, this is just not going to do. There's no sprout. There's no nothing. I can't tell. So I think that that's a fascinating idea. Robert F. Kennedy once said, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly.
I like that. And you know what, Lisa, what I loved about Chasing Failure was he gave himself permission to pursue his dream uh, regardless. He was unstoppable. He knew what he wanted to do. And he said, at worst case scenario, I fail. Best case, I get through. But whatever happens, I'm going for it. He moved out of his comfort zone. And yeah, so many of us are so busy sitting in. It's like for me, the desire to have this worldwide business has always been something that I wanted to do. But I didn't want to move out of my box. I wanted to stay right here in this podcast room, in this little bitty screen. But the universe and God Himself had bigger plans for me, because every time I turn around, I'm being invited to go somewhere and to speak. That was not my dream. My dream was to be the virtual tap in queen. Well, I'm the tap in queen, but I'm doing it more than virtually. And it has grown over time beyond my wildest dreams. And that's just what the bamboo tree do. You put it in there, and people sometimes will plant that thinking they're going to get this one tree, and before they know it, it is an invasive species. Bamboo will take you out. It will take over everything if you leave it unchecked. And it's just like that with our businesses. If we are not paying attention, things can go awry, and before you know it, it's out of control. Think about those businesses that uh, start up and they really have a great idea, but before they know it, they have more orders than they can support. And then they go out of business just because they did bad business, and nobody wants to deal with them anymore because they can't fulfill orders. They have a problem. They have no strategy, no structure, and no system, so they can't fulfill their orders. It's the same thing for people that are keynote speakers. I've been in some places where people were paid a lot of money to speak, and my God, they should have never opened their mouth. But anyway, yeah, we're not gonna dog nobody. Y'all know who you are. So let's move on to something different here. That's when you thriving amidst challenges. Lisa, those folks that get out there and fall flat on their face, I've done it. I've fallen flat on my face. I recently did a presentation and I wasn't feeling my best and I had some challenges. And I got there and I made every mistake in the book, Lisa. I didn't engage my audience. I basically read through my slides, didn't even give out information. When they got done, people were like, "What was that?" I said, "That's what you call an epic fail." But here's the best part, I learned from it, Lisa. And so I'm thriving amidst the challenge of having failed that. I'm happy to say I've redeemed myself since then, because that was a repeat place. But Lisa, if that was my first time going there and they didn't know me prior to that, that definitely would have been my last time. I am so blessed that even amidst the trials, they were able to give me grace. And like the bamboo tree, when it hits the storm, that thing, it bends, it may bend, but it ain't breaking.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur when you have that bamboo spirit. And even when challenges are thrown at you, obstacles are looming large, and setbacks are just becoming stepping stones for growth, you are learning to move forward and thrive in the midst of challenges.
And I love the word challenges over problems
Mm.
because challenges can always be overcome. And sometimes what a challenge does is it actually encourages you to go a different way. It forces you to stand straight. It forces you to do a variety of things. And if you have that strong foundation, the challenges, like you said, because the bamboo has a strong root and a strong foundation, when it does come up and the storm does hit, it still survives. It understands the challenges, but the foundations are strong and saves the bamboo.
And in that time when you're having the challenges too, especially for a lot of you entrepreneurs, I know your stress level goes up. You're asking yourself, do I really want to do that? And I had to bring this on this part right here, Lisa. That's why your why is so important. And I really want you to talk about that a little bit because when I was talking to some ladies just yesterday about this and they were struggling in some areas, and I asked them, why are you doing this in the first place? Two of them was clear. I mean, they went 10 toes down. I knew the other lady, she had no idea, Lisa, and I was surprised. She'd been in business for 4 years and she still didn't even know why she was doing it. And she finally said, I just did it because my girlfriend had a business. Well, that's why you're struggling because you never wanted to do this in the first place. So, and she'd really been struggling because everybody's asked her, she's been looking for a job like on the down low. She didn't want nobody to know and she actually got offered a extremely high paying corporate job. And I'm happy to say she said she's going to go in there and go for it. But she was about to pass up on a very lucrative opportunity doing something that she loved and wanted to do because of her perception that in order to be accepted, she had to have this business. Her why wasn't strong enough because she wasn't doing it for her or for the benefit of others. She was doing it to keep up with the Joneses, I would say.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why your why is so important. Because if you think about it, most people will start their business with that superficial why. I want to make money. I want to be my own boss. My girlfriend has a business. I want to be with her. My friend has a business. When you use a superficial why, there are going to be times when you hit those challenges. You can still thrive even if you don't know your why, but
Mm-hmm.
you will thrive a lot better and a lot longer if you understand the real reason why you are starting your business.
And Lisa, I have to go here, so don't beat me. But I really give people the side eye when I just want to save the world and I want to be. I'm like, oh, get rid of the Mother Teresa people. Okay, some people are gonna like that. I understand there are those people, those altruist, what do you call them, desires to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying get really clear on and stop all the fluff stuff that I've been hearing lately as I go to in some of these webinars and different things. People start businesses because they want to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, how you run your business. Now that's a whole different. Do you run it with integrity? Do you have ethics? Do they align with your core values? Then all that other woo woo stuff will come with it. Because I'm about as woo woo as people get. You know that, Lisa. I'm all about helping people. I want to see everybody succeed. But what I also have discovered is that just because I want it for other people doesn't mean they want it for themselves. And
No, that's true.
that was a big revelation for me. But I think too sometimes we are trying to look a certain way to other people as opposed to being authentically who we are. And I think people can spot phony people saying phony things a miles away.
I would beg to differ on that one because there are a lot of phony people, and I scratch my head. And there's people who are absolutely in love with them, and I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you just see so and so do that like 2 weeks ago? And it's copycat there kind of thing, and they said it wrong because this is the way. But there are a lot of
I
people.
guess what I'm saying is about when they say, if they really care about you. I mean, you've been in places where I know advertising, that's a whole nother game because that's like smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned. But I guess what I'm talking about is in the spaces that we're in right now, when somebody comes across to me and it's like they are they are talking to me or presenting things in a way that just sound too good to be true, and you know they're all rah rah in my face, and then you see them in the hallway after seminar and they won't even speak to you. you know there's there's this juxtaposition that just doesn't work for me.
No,
And so I think it's important. I guess what I'm trying to say is show up off screen the way you show up on screen. Don't
exactly.
let people be surprised when they meet the real you. Is that a better way of saying it?
That is a lot better way of saying it.
Okay. Okay, our next point of interest is nurturing a growth mindset. I saw this little pumped up brain and I got excited, Lisa. I just enjoy looking. That's why he's still on the screen because I think he's cute. Okay, let it go, Brenda.
He's
Anyway,
also pink, and I'm sure that
yeah,
that's the other reason
that
why.
that did not hurt him to get on my slide. Being pink, I'm in with the pink. And when you cultivate a growth mindset as it applies to bamboo, it means you're embracing change. Because the thing about a bamboo is they will grow around a thing, they will grow through a thing. They don't let nothing stop them. They are truly an unstoppable plant. And I thought that was what they. If you see some of the pictures that I saw, Lisa, the way bamboo just wrapped itself around things and became so artistic and things, they can thrive in all kind of environments. You put them out there. I'm in North Carolina, and in the my neighbor's yard, they put like a couple of bamboos. In a matter of a few years, there was like the wall of China bamboo. I was waiting for pandas to come out. It was so thick. It took days for them to trim that down. I came here in 1999. I think by the time it was like it was maybe about 6 years ago when they finally took it down. That thing was so wide we had to call the city because the bamboo had started to get into the pipes. It was not playing. So you don't play with bamboo. And when it comes to a growth mindset as an entrepreneur, you have to be a continuous learner. You have to be someone that stays abreast of industry standards, that is working on constant, never ending improvement, embracing that mindset.
And it's true. And you have to embrace it sometimes very quickly when it comes to the bamboo because it
Hmm.
grows so quickly. So if it's going to wrap around something or it's going to go straight and you want it to wrap around something, you have to be able to adapt quickly. So
Hmm.
that growth mindset and understanding that if I'm going to grow, I have to have a plan before I grow. So when you're working on your process, can you grow? A lot of times individuals don't think about the money that it costs to grow. You
Yeah.
got to set you got to think I want to be able to do 500 pencils. Just
Hmm.
throwing out pencils just because that's what's
Okay.
in my head right now. I'm going to create my 500 pencils. They're all going to be uniquely different. But the problem is I only have enough money to do 100, but I need
Mm.
500. But I've got an order for 500, but you don't get the money right away. You have to wait for the money.
Yes.
So that growth mindset, you must have a plan so that you can grow, and that if it does get out of control, if it does become bigger than what you expected, you're prepared. You have a plan A, B, and C, and you're
You know,
flexible to adapt.
when you said that, I thought if that was my one of my clients would say that. I said, when you sell the first 100, you give out notes for the people that's going to get together for, and when you get that money back, you use that money to purchase your other 400. But again, it's about thinking outside the box sometimes, or even inside the box. It's just coming up with a plan, but not giving up. Borrow the money from a friend, sell your shoes in a garage sale, whatever it takes. Just make sure that you don't uh, fail to plan, so that you do have a strategy to fulfill your orders. And one of the best stories I ever heard about that was DPP Yoga. Uh, uh, Diamond Dallas, is it Phillips? Diamond Dallas Phillips. He is a wrestler, and he created DDP Yoga. It's not your mama's yoga, y'all. And it's a lot of fun. But when it finally took off, they had so many orders, and they had no infrastructure for fulfill it. It was like aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors, everybody was in their stuff, and they were doing 24 hours around the clock. They were putting out messages on Facebook telling people, "Bear with us, we're going to get it to you." But everybody gave him grace. They were just excited to see that his business was taking off, because he had been doing it for a while, and then all of a sudden, and people were acting like he was an overnight success. He had been working on this for quite a while, but when it hit, it hit. And that's the thing of having a growth mindset and being able to be prepared for when things do blow up. Are you going to be ready? Which leads us into our next thing, that if you're ready, you got to have a gratitude and reflection. There's my picture of you and I, Lisa, that we took when we were in New York. It says, a good friend knows all your stories. A best friend lived them with you. That was a quote I saw unknown. And that is you for sure. Because when I reflect back on what we've accomplished over the past few years, I am grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for your mentorship. I'm grateful for your guidance in general, and that we get to go on this entrepreneurial journey together. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would benefit from celebrating their wins, being grateful, and reflecting back on what they've accomplished so far, and not looking back to live in the negative, as opposed to being forward looking into the positive.
And that is so true. And one of the most important things, and I can't say this enough, is Brenda just doesn't say that she's grateful for me once in a blue moon, or or when she's live, because she does say it a lot when she's live. And I am obviously extremely grateful to have Brenda as part of this journey that I'm going on, because the journey would not be where it is today if it wasn't for Brenda and her insight and the ways that she thinks and she acts. And we understand each other, which is uniquely different, because if you can understand the way somebody else thinks and you can help them see things and vice versa, that's the best kind of friend you can have. But gratitude and reflection has to be consistently throughout the process. Because if you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing that throughout the entire process, you are missing out. There is nothing in my mind that is better than gratitude and being grateful for the moment, being grateful every day.
Mm-hmm. And Lisa, one of the things is people need to know, when it comes, they see you and I here on these different lives. And what y'all need to know, we are extremely polar opposites. We do have some things that are different, but we're very much the opposite of each other. And that's a blessing for us, because we can see each other's blind spots. And there are things that Lisa has her strengths, I have my strengths, but when you put us together, we are truly the power team, and we get a lot of stuff done. So, like the bamboo tree, when you intertwine those things, baby, you cannot break them. It says a two-strand cord is not easily broken, and that's what it is when you put Lisa and I together when it comes to business, because we're serious about the business of doing business. We want to see businesses thrive and not just survive. We want to see each and every one of you be unstoppable and live your best life now. So remember, to have unstoppable growth, you need to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit by growing strong like the bamboo. You need to embrace the growth process, embrace the chase. Ryan Leake's failure philosophy in chasing failure is something you need to Google, YouTube, or something, but you need to find out about it. You need to thrive amidst challenges, nurture a growth mindset, and of course, always be grateful and reflect on your wins, big, small, and everything in between. Any final thoughts, Lisa?
I think that my final thought for today is not what it usually is.
Mm,
So, one of the things that I think is important is you have to remember you're not doing this alone. And the Solutionist portal actually gives you the foundational pieces that you need. And I can't stress the fact that there's nothing more tedious than foundational pieces,
mm-hmm.
but you make them fun. Even the tedious ones I don't like, you make fun. And I think that, remember, nobody has to do anything alone. Whether you join the Solutionist portal, which I think is valuable, or you join something else, or you grab a friend to do something, never do it alone.
You don't have to. And here is the scan code, QR scan code. The QR code, if you need help with your defense of how you do business, of doing business, you can join my live community for free. Or you can join the Solutions Portal for $97 a month. The first 150 people will get that price. Everybody else is $450. But here is the QR code, or you can go to my website, brendathesolutionist.com. Be happy to have you there. And as always, remember, the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. So choose to be unstoppable because it is a choice, y'all. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Brenda.